Hello and welcome to another Royal Reviewer live weekly chat. I hope you've all had an amazing, fantastic week. Again, it's been another voluptuous week in royal news. This is my Royal Ascot special. I hope you like the bunting. Yeah, I got them this week, they're new. And I do also have some other things on order too. So hopefully I'll be able to show you those next week. Now I'm just going to go straight and find the live chat window. I can see Susan, who's waiting. I can see Ren. I can see Nina. Susan says, Prince Philip, you may be healed in Jesus' name, but I wish you to have a happy weekend. Yes, of course, that's the reference to Prince Philip being taken ill. And it was suspected to have been for a pre-existing condition, which we believe to have been a bladder condition. He is, of course, better now. He's missed pretty much most of Royal Ascot. He only appeared for one day, that was the Thursday. But he is better, he's out of hospital, so that can only be a good sign. But the Queen soldiered on regardless, and she did attend all the days of Royal Ascot, even when the state opening of Parliament was very different this year. It was scaled back, of course, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's just do a few more hellos. Nina was so worried about Prince Philip. Freya says, hi Elliot, I'm at the airport, so I'll probably have to leave early and watch on catch up. And you're going to Berlin. Well, I hope you have a fantastic flight. And of course, you know, everyone can catch up on this if you've missed it on catch up. Immediately after this chat goes out, because of course I'm live at the moment, but it goes straight onto YouTube. It's filmed through Hangouts on Air, which is associated to YouTube. So immediately after this, it goes live. So if you've missed it, don't worry, you can always catch up. And you can catch up on all the previous week's live chats as well. They're in their own playlist, so do go and have a look. Elaine says, you're present, and she sent me a bow. Nina says, have a safe trip, Freya. Deborah says, hi, hello to Deborah. Hello to Candice, otherwise known as Vanal Girl. Amanda D says, hi. Jen says, hello. And Deaf City Clown says, yo. Well, a big yo and a high five to you. And James is from Los Angeles and California. So hello to everyone wherever you are in the world. Please let me know what your favourite royal story was this week. Freya says, who do you think Camilla will pick for a Mistress of the Robes when she becomes Queen? My pick would be the Duchess of Wellington, Princess Antonia of Prussia. I'm not sure who she'll choose. I mean, it's a very personal choice. And I'm sure, you know, any Queen consort would have a very strong idea about who they would want. And I'm not entirely sure whether Camilla may go for someone necessarily titled. Of course, you know, we know that Prince Charles wants to kind of revolutionise the monarchy a little bit when he becomes king. So perhaps, you know, it could be someone untitled. It could even be perhaps Camilla's sister, Annabel Elliot. You know, I'm just going to throw that idea out there. Annabel is very, very close to Charles and Camilla, so possibly would be maybe her first choice. I'm just speculating, that is a speculation, but possibly Annabel Elliot. Stacey Lamb says hello, and hello to Linda too. Jamie's made it this week, otherwise known as Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II on chat. Welcome, Jamie. And he's not doing something else, he's here with us today. Elaine says, pleased you did. Veronica says, hello to you. Freya says, technically, the Mistress of the Robes is a Duchess. I hope it remains that way. That's what I've just been discussing. It may change. Of course, it's traditional that that's the case, but as I said, Prince Charles would, you know, has said he wants to revolutionise and modernise the monarchy. Perhaps that's one change that could be made. Jamie says, thanks, Elaine, you too. And Freya says, the last queen not to have a duchess for a Mistress of the Robe was George III's wife. So there is a precedent for it not to be. So I'm still saying possibly Camilla's sister. But that's just a tentative guess, perhaps. But of course, who knows? We'll have to wait and find out. I hope you've all got your favourite drink. I've got my tea this week. And I hope you've all really enjoyed Royal Ascot. One of the highlights of the equine, equestrian, horse racing, whatever you want to call it, year. And of course, the fashion, absolutely incredible. I mean, if you've taken a look at some of the other photos of the revelers and the race goers, you know, after a few drinks, they do tend to throw caution to the wind, and it's all out there. So in fact, I may do a video just on the photographs of people's fashion, just everyday people, because it really is amazing. And as the week gets on, the fashions get more daring and daring and daring. And what did you think about the Queen's choice of fashion? Every day a different bright colour. It's almost as if she was going through the colours of the rainbow. And of course, Princess Eugenie and Beatrice were there. Sarah Ferguson made it on one of the days, which kind of indicates that she's very much back in the fold. She was seen waving at the Queen and looking very excited. I made a video on that. Please do go watch it. Yeah, so it's been an amazing royal week. I'm just going to read some more comments. Jamie says, I had a good few winners at Ascot, only up 50 though. Enjoyable week. I think the Queen's horse lost today. Van Al says, I see a horse on your side table. Yes, the horse normally lives in a different place in the house, but I've brought the horse out ready for my Ascot special. Stacey says, I really enjoyed all the dresses and hats. I love them. Hats are amazing, and of course I think a very overlooked fashion accessory in today's world. Yes, ladies of today tend to favour a fascinator, but proper full brimmed hats you can't beat, in my opinion, and I do think they should make a comeback. And of course, you know, Ascot is an example of how to do hats in a modern way. Freya says, racing is something I pretend to know about but actually don't. I think that probably applies to most people. This year I did get to visit a racing track that's kind of close to me, and I did even get to go into a jockey's changing room, and they have a steam room or a sauna or something. It really is quite something. Stacey says, in my opinion, best dress goes to Sophie Wessex. She did look incredible. Beatrice and Eugenie, a little bit hit and miss in my view. Some days they look good, some days they didn't. But on the whole, I thought the royal fashion was pretty good. Marjor says, hi Elliot, I made it on time. Well, hello to you. Freya says, I like how Catherine was wearing McQueen, and of course she attended on that Thursday. Stacey Lamb says we should have a poll on best dressed. Well, if you join my British Royal Reviewer page or group rather, on Facebook, it's Royal Reviewer, British Royals by Royal Reviewer YouTube on Facebook. And if you join that, I can actually put polls up. So maybe I should. So join there, request to join, and I will accept you, and I will put a poll up and we can vote. Jamie says, love the Queen's light green outfit. I backed all her horses, even the ones who stood no chance. Yeah, well, the Queen had an amazing time. And of course, it was Jamie who first spotted that she did a very different royal wave. One that resembled her father, George VI, and grandmother, Queen Mary, which was, instead of the usual kind of circular motion, it was a bit more sort of floppy and all over the place. I thought maybe she was trying to get the other people in the carriage to wave, but looking back at it, I'm not quite so sure. I think she was just channeling a different wave, maybe. What do you think? Take a look. Amanda D says, Catherine and McQueen were made for each other. I do agree. She always looks fabulous in the fashions, and of course McQueen was the designer of her wedding dress. I mean, not actually Alexander McQueen, he had passed away sadly before her wedding, but certainly, you know, she looks amazing in McQueen fashions, in the fashion house McQueen. Jamie says, yes, she had Dartmouth in the 420. Cheryl says, hello, how are you? I'm fine, Cheryl. Hope you've had a fantastic week. Jamie says, possibly named after Dartmouth Naval College where she met Philip. That's a good, strong chance and a very good, strong possibility. Freya says, can the monarch give members of their family court appointments. For example, could she make the Duke of York Lord Chamberlain if she so wished? There would probably be claims of a conflict of interest if she tried. And I very much doubt that a member of the royal family would like to work as a member of the household. I don't think it's strictly forbidden, but it's just not done. I don't believe it has been done in previous years. I'm sure someone could get the Google out and check. But no, I don't think any of the royal family would necessarily want to do one of those household jobs. But I don't think there's anything specifically barring, other than perhaps there being a conflict of interest, in which case it could make it slightly unfair for other people, normal people, civilians, who want to try and make a career in the royal household. Of course, there's plenty of work going around for members of the royal family in other capacities, supporting the monarch, which of course is their real royal role, if you like, although not an official role, of course. Okay, Candice says the Queen looked perfect on each day of Royal Ascot. I agree. And you said today's brooch is a new favourite of mine now. I did love today's too, and of course she wore the star brooch earlier. And since I've started collecting the brooches, I have kind of been brooch spotting a lot. So of course, whenever she comes out, I always have a look at what she's wearing. And of course, she did look fabulous in the star when she wore that too. Critical Vector says, hello Elliot, I noticed one of your videos that Prince Andrew was sitting next to the Queen in a carriage. I don't recall seeing Andrew in such a prominent place in quite a while. But I would imagine it's because of the absence of Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. Of course, he's ill at the moment and recovering. Well, he's out of hospital, but I'd imagine he's still not feeling himself because he hasn't been at Royal Ascot. So, of course, Andrew is just stepping in. He's, if you like, the +1. Jamie says, why do Beatrice and Eugenie always remind me of the ugly sisters from Cinderella? Well, I mean, I'm not one to comment on people's looks, but there was that photo at the time of the wedding going around that compared them to those sisters in Cinderella. And the outfits and the hats did look strikingly familiar. And of course, as I said, they're very hit and miss with fashion, just like their mother, Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York. She's very hit and miss with fashion. Sometimes they get it absolutely right. Sometimes they get it catastrophically wrong. There's not much middle ground. I mean, even with Halloween outfits, I think we remember from Halloween the crazy cat outfit. Yeah, so it's hit and miss, I would say, hit and miss with them. And of course, but that's good because it kind of keeps you always guessing, and kind of, as a fashion watcher rather, it does keep you on your toes. You don't know what you're going to get. Elaine says, I've been spelling me wrong all this time. Yes, I'm a 1T Elliot. 2 L's and a 1T. There you go. Okay. Jamie says, I'm pretty sure the bigger wave is when you have bigger crowds. George VI only did it on the balcony. To be honest, it is kind of out of character, because even though it was a big crowd, she was being pulled along. So it wouldn't have made any difference if she'd have just carried on the royal wave as she passed. I guess we'll never really know the real reason why she did it. It's not been seen particularly before. Elaine says, not normally this early. Is Elliot usually late? I'm not normally late. I'm normally on time. I'm normally pretty much dead on 10 o'clock GMT, give or take a few minutes. Marjol says, I'm hoping there was a video on how Sophie almost tumbled onto Kate in the carriage. That was the first day, if I'm correct. And yes, those photos were in the very first video of Royal Ascot. So there wasn't a specific video on her stumbling, but those photos are in there. So do go and take a look. James says the type of wave is too formal for a non-royalist. Well, there you go. That's another take on the royal wave. Okay, Jamie says, Elaine, you need to refresh the chat. log out and go back in again. Yes, always, if ever the chat kind of plays up, please just refresh. Freya says, do you think the Duke of Cambridge will style himself William V? It's hard to tell. I think he's got more chance of calling himself by his given first name, William, than what Charles has. I do think Charles will take George as his regnal name. William, I think it depends on how long he would be Prince of Wales for. I think it's important that Charles takes a change because he's been known as Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, for a very, very long time. So I think to establish himself as king quite early on, I think he needs a new name. If William doesn't have to wait that long as Prince of Wales, then I think he's got more chance of staying with William. And I think possibly George, being called George as his first name, will probably be a George. But we'll see. I mean, time will tell. That's one thing that we just don't know. Elaine says there are 41 watching as of now. So hello to those 41 people. Please say hello. And if you've got a question, please let me know. Deborah says, I loved watching the Queen riding in the carriage. Was that on the racetrack? I believe it's like at the side of the racetrack, going along until she gets to the royal stand. James says, Princess Beatrice is very pretty. She has beautiful hair, and I've always found her eyes very sweet. Jamie says, yes, the one with the 6 flowers looked marvellous. And Freya says, who is your favourite child of Queen Victoria's? And I would agree with you, Victoria, because of course she did also marry and become an empress, I do believe. His Majesty Steve, hi Steve, says, I didn't think Philip looked well in your video of him leaving hospital. No, I mean, of course, he probably isn't one to want to stay in hospital any longer than what he has to. And of course, he get great care out of hospital. But certainly, you know, he was well enough to not be in hospital, but probably not well enough, you know, in most people's ideas of well. So he's probably still recovering, which is why he didn't attend Ascot with the Queen. But I'm sure he's well looked after, which is why the Queen was confident enough to be able to leave him to come and indulge her passion in horses at Ascot. And of course, you know, he's a very pragmatic person. He would have probably said, you know, just go to the horses and enjoy them. I'll be okay. I'm looked after well. So of course she made it to the horses every single day. And I'm sure Prince Philip, as resilient as ever, will just continue to get better. We hope, fingers crossed. Elaine says she's back on board now. Well done, so refreshing does work. James said the Yorks take high risk with fashion like no other royals. They do indeed. That's certainly another way of looking at it. Freya says, how come when the present Queen married a royal duke, she was known as Her Royal Highness Princess Elizabeth, the Duchess of Edinburgh? But when King George III's daughter, Princess Mary, married a royal duke, she was known as Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Gloucester and Edinburgh. In other words, why did Elizabeth precede her title with Prince and Princess Mary didn't? Probably just a simplified style. And of course, she wanted to be known as the wife of Philip. And of course, at the time, you know, times were very different. Females did like to take on the name and style and title of their husband. And I think that's just what happened. And of course, not wanting to overcomplicate it. But of course, there was no reason why, I suppose, she couldn't, you know, keep her title of York. Hello to Glenn from South Africa. Political Vector says, I have been of the opinion that the Duke of York and his daughters are just an embarrassment for the Queen. I recall the days when Sarah Ferguson was referred to as the Duchess of Pork. I remember those days too. And Sarah Ferguson certainly has had her moments that may have caused embarrassment. In fact, probably certainly caused embarrassment. I don't think Eugenie and Beatrice necessarily cause embarrassment. I think with their fashion, as I said before, they are probably more hit and miss than any other royal. But I don't think they necessarily cause embarrassment. The Duke of York, probably only through his association with Sarah and possibly some of his business friends. But no, I don't think they're an embarrassment as such. They just make probably a few more mistakes than other members of the family. Shaffer says, Elliot, do you know how is the royal guard of those who collapsed? Of course, there was nothing official released about them, but then again, there was no news of them coming to any harm. And of course, heat stroke is something that you do recover from, typically. So I suppose no news is good news. Glenn says, thanks. And Freya says, I think in future an heiress apparent to the throne should be styled Princess of Wales. Again, that would take a rewriting of the constitution, but of course, for example, if Princess Charlotte would have been born first, she would have been the next in line, even if George had been born later. So perhaps when that opportunity arises, that could be addressed. But I'm personally of the opinion that it should perhaps be addressed beforehand. And I agree that would be quite a good idea. And I think most people would welcome that move. Jamie says, Philip was carriage driving today. Oh, I didn't know that. Where did you see that he was carriage driving today? So in that case, he must be a lot better because it's quite a demanding sport. Jamie says, nice flags. Is that called bunting? It is indeed called bunting. And these are vintage bunting, and they're cotton, and they are from Amazon. And actually, I was really surprised because they are really good quality. They only cost about $7.99 UK British pounds, and they are really good quality. I haven't even had to iron them or anything. I just hung them up, and of course, there are more that goes in that direction. But from the ones that you can see, it's really good value. And I do have some other flags and bunting on order. This is the one that came first. I was hoping more would come in time for the chat, but you know, we'll have to make do with this. And I also have a Union Jack box of tissues. I don't know why I'm showing you my tissues, but it does kind of all go together. There you go. And the tissues are by Kleenex. And this video is not sponsored by Kleenex. Okay, James says, can people please forgive Sarah, Duchess of York? I think a lot of the time people generally do forgive her, but then she keeps on making the mistakes. Steve feels a bit sorry for the York princesses. I think I do too. Cut them some slack. Jamie says, Andrew is my least favourite royal. Let me know in the comment section on the actual video that's published after the chat, who is your favourite royal? And who is your least favourite royal? James says, do you think Fergie went to Ascot because Prince Philip was in hospital? Good point, but no, I think she just turned up with her daughter and looked absolutely ecstatic to see the Queen. I mean, in those photos, she was really waving and smiling. So I think she was just really happy to be there. Maybe a certain amount of time has passed and she's back into the fold. Let's hope she doesn't put another foot wrong. Freya says, do you think Prince William will be invested as Prince of Wales at Carnarvon Castle? I have visited Carnarvon Castle way before the days of YouTube, so I don't have any footage. I did have some photos which I put on Twitter, and I've stood on the Welsh slate dais where he was crowned or invested as Prince of Wales. So I've stood on the exact spot. Do I think William will go there? Of course, it's costly. They'll have to weigh it up with the mood of the people, but I would like to think so. It may not be as big a ceremony as Charles, but I would like to think that there will be some kind of nod to that, and an investiture will hopefully take place. Deborah says, I watched Beatrice with the dress, see-through when her slip rode up. And of course, Catherine also had a bit of a see-through moment this week, very reminiscent of Princess Diana, when she had that see-through sheer moment where you could see her legs when the sun was behind. Well, Catherine had the same moment in her lacy Alexander McQueen number. So check out that video. It is very similar to Diana. It's her Diana moment. Shaffer says, I was really concerned about the guards. Hopefully no news is good news. That's exactly what I think. Van Al says, sorry, what did you say the flag banner is behind you? It's the Union Jack, and it's called bunting, and it's from Amazon. It's called vintage bunting because if you notice, it's not the bright colours. It looks slightly tea stained, if you like. So it's a little bit aged. So it's kind of vintage, as if it's old. Let's put it that way. Political Vector says, Elliot, how are your plants doing in your greenhouse, and how are your precious furry children? The cats are about. You may have seen them coming in and out. I've left the door open tonight because it is fairly warm. So they're in and out. You might see them. Molly's fur is growing back. Those of you who want to know about her fur. My Princess Diana clematis is now in flower, and for patrons on Patreon, I did post a picture of my Princess Diana clematis. It's actually called Princess Diana, and I thought it had died over winter, but no, it's back, and it's flowering and it looks gorgeous. So if you're a patron on Patreon, and if you're not, take a look and see if you would like to join and become a Royal Reviewer patron on Patreon. Just download Patreon, the app, that's Patreon, and search for Royal Reviewer, and you'll find my Patreon page. Do check it out. There are exclusives and rewards for supporting the site. So do take a look. My greenhouse is coming along nicely. I will update with a video on that. I've been very busy with royal news, so I've not had much time for my other channel, which is Elliot Phillips Aspects of My Life. Do go and check it out. Freya says, do you think future princesses of Wales will be invested with the traditional coronet of George, Prince of Wales, or the newer coronet of Charles? I think it'll be the new one, because the new one was made specifically. A little bit of trivia for you. The actual kind of circle ball at the top of that coronet is actually a ping pong ball that's been dipped in gold. So it's real gold on the outer, but it's actually a ping pong ball in the middle. But yes, I think they'll carry on using that one. Maria says, hi, is it true that Kate and William are getting a divorce? No, that is complete speculation, completely false, and probably perpetuated by various YouTube channels which put out fake news daily. And by the way, for those of you who know of the Top Half, that channel that puts rubbish out there every single day, please unsubscribe if you're a subscriber, because every story is fake. They also have a new channel, and I believe it's them because the photos they use are in the same style, and it's the same style of fake news. So they have actually got more than one channel now. So please beware, be very, very wary of what news you read and what you believe, because there are people out there just trying to get clickbait, trying to get views, to get money. Of course, I don't do that on this channel. I always try my very, very best to bring you the real, true stories and true accounts. But there are unscrupulous people out there who don't see it like that. So please, please beware. Jamie says, bunting, I wasn't sure if that's what it's called when I guessed on Patreon. I also put some pictures of me with the flags on Patreon. A little bit funny pictures, but I'm kind of wearing them in a weird way. Go on Patreon to check that out. Jamie says, I wonder how often Fergie sees the Queen. Probably not that often, judging by the fact of how excited she was and waving at the Queen. I would probably say not too often, but that's not to say not ever. And of course, we'll never know entirely. Van Al says, bunting is my last name. So it is. So it is indeed. And by the way, if you are a $20 a month or over patron on Patreon, you get your name. You get a name credit check as a Royal Reviewer supporter in the link of all of my live chat videos. So if you haven't seen your name, or you want your name to be on there, do go and check out Patreon. Now, I think I've missed a few questions, so I'm going to have to go back up and see if I can catch up. Okay, Shaffer says the princesses of York are lovely girls. They didn't harm anybody. Why don't people like them? Again, it's probably the association with Andrew and Sarah. As girls themselves, I don't think they've put much of a foot wrong. Maybe a fashion foot wrong or two or three, but they haven't really made any big mistakes. I mean, you could say that Prince Harry had made a big mistake this week by revealing that no royal wants to be king or queen. I mean, Eugenie and Beatrice haven't done anything like that, as far as I'm aware. So I don't really know. Jen says, no, Kate and William are not getting a divorce. I completely agree. Elaine says, Elliot, I was wondering, do you think they ever really parted? One does wonder. Of course, they've remained very, very, very close. They've even lived together, continue to live together. They bought a Swiss chalet together. It's almost as if, they haven't separated. Again, only they know the state of their own relationship. But to me, it looks fairly strong. Annette says, hello, everyone. Can't stay long. I travelled 500 miles to see your sister. Wow, that's a long way. Great videos this week and loved all the Ascot coverage. And Prince Harry saying no one wants to be king or queen. Oh boy. Well, yes, we just spoke about that. And yes, that caused quite a lot of controversy. But of course, he already had a planned visit to Africa, which came at just the nick of time because he managed to escape the media storm, which has kind of allowed everything to die down a bit. So that was very, very lucky. So he has escaped the big media row. And hopefully when he gets back, he won't be confronted with it too much. And of course, that was an interview he did to an American magazine. Jamie says, I thought it was great when Sophie fell on Catherine. The look on Catherine's face was one of complete horror. It was like, oh! It was quite good. So you do go and check the first video on day one of Royal Ascot and you will see that photo. Again, Jamie says, what news about the guards? The ones that fell over at Trooping the Colour, the ones that fainted. Tim says, hello all, I just returned from London. Wow, Tim returned from London. And Tim, of course, speaking of Trooping the Colour, Tim attended Trooping the Colour. So I hope you had an amazing time. You're just saying you had amazing weather and saw the Queen 2 times. You waited for 7 hours at the palace for the birthday parade. Tim says, wish I could share my photos on here, but I don't know how. I can't remember if you are on you can't share them on here, but you can share them on my Twitter and I will retweet them if you send them to me. So if you send me your photos on Twitter, I will retweet them and everyone can see. Or if you join Royal Reviewer YouTube group on Facebook, you can post them there and I will approve the post and people can see. Tim says it was hot outside and 7 guards fainted the entire day. Wow. And of course it was our really hot weekend. Candice says, lucky Tim. Coach says, question, at what age will Prince George receive a coat of arms and how much choice will he have in its design? Let me think. Doesn't he have one already? He possibly has one already. In fact, I'm going to check. Let's do a check. In fact, Wikipedia always has, if ever you want to know about coat of arms, Wikipedia always have it. Now, the reason why I'm checking is because I have an inkling he already has one. Even if it's one that's kind of shared from his parents. So let me just check. Okay. Because I think he may. Okay, so far as I'm aware, there isn't. So I presume he just shares one with his parents. So no, he doesn't. And I'm not entirely sure what age he gets it. That's something that I will need to check out. And when I find out, I will tell you next week. Let me just go, because I think I've missed some of Tim's comments about Trooping the Colour. Tim says, I went alone for 12 days. and took the trains all over the place. Wow, 12 days alone. That's quite big. In fact, that's really big. Jamie says, Tim, I was thinking of you. And you were talking about your trip and never updated us. Well, he can update us now he's back. And if you update on Twitter or Facebook, I can share with everybody. Deborah says, you haven't made your comedy video. No, I haven't, because it's been so busy with royal news. And although I've got my new channel, I certainly don't want to neglect this channel. This channel does come first. So I haven't been able to, but don't worry, I am still going to do it. And speaking of hot, I am going to have to take my jacket off because although the temperatures died down a bit here in the UK and it's been slightly cloudy today, well, I did manage to get my washing dried on the line, which was nice. It is still quite hot and muggy in here. So I am going to take off my jacket because it's still quite hot. So there we go. That's a little bit better, nice and cool. Okay. James says, will the Queen go to the Countess of Mountbatten's funeral? As long as she's well enough, I would imagine so. She did attend some of the other ladies in waiting's funerals over the past year or two, so I see no reason why she wouldn't. And of course, Philip would hope, you know, probably attend too. Tim says, I loved it. I was literally the first 15 people at the front of the palace to wait. Wow. I'll have to re-watch that and see if I can see you. Critical Beck says, Elliot, do you know who the Queen's best female friend is? Well, I think some of them have probably passed away in recent years. But in terms of her current best female friend, oh, who knows? I mean, I think she's quite close to her dresser, Angela Kelly, actually. And of course, who is Prince Philip's best male friend? Well, years ago, he used to go to a club in London. I'm not sure whether he still, you know, has some of those friends. So I would imagine it's one of those friends. But he does spend a lot of time carriage driving. So I'm imagining that he probably associates with males in the carriage driving world. I'm imagining probably an unknown carriage driving friend. I mean, that's just me speculating, or an old friend who's still living. And of course, when you get to his age, 96, friends that, you know, have passed away are more common than friends that are living, unfortunately. Thistled Love says, thank you so much for giving the most accurate, up-to-date information on the royals. I do try my best. And of course, you know, not everyone knows everything, and sometimes we don't know things. Sometimes we have to let royal life play out. You know, we can speculate, but one thing I never do is put out their opinion or speculation as fact. I never dress it up. So you always know where you stand when you're watching one of my videos. Aaron says, in 1912 there was a ticket scandal at Ascot. An uninvited guest was caught selling fake tickets to the royal enclosure. The King's representatives was Winston Churchill, and he took the lady to court. Well, there's some Royal Ascot trivia from 1912. Deborah says, that was smart of Harry leaving quick. Yes, I think it was. Maybe he knew, maybe he didn't know that was coming out then. I don't know. Okay, Tim says, I was in tears being so close to the royal family. I didn't see Prince Edward or Sophie at all. Sophie wasn't there, but Edward was in the carriage, I believe, with Andrew and Beatrice and Eugenie, I think. Elaine says, I think Harry has been banished for a couple of days. I think it was a pre-planned trip, but it came in the nick of time. Jamie says they were not there. Edward was, but not Sophie and James and Lady Louise. Elaine says he'll be allowed back soon. Of course he will. He was never banished, don't worry. Tim says, Elliot, where was Prince Edward and his wife and kids? I think I've just said where they were. Edward was there, Sophie and the children were not. But I don't know where they were instead. Sophie had previously had a busy week with royal engagements. Maybe she was taking a rest, or maybe they'd all gone as a small family unit without Edward. Maybe Edward was representing them. Maybe they've taken a little bit of a break. Tim says, does anyone think Prince Philip will live till 100? Well, I mean, he's only got 4 years to go to get there, so why not? Jen says, nice shirt. Thistle Love says, love your shirt. Steve says, I like your shirt. Wow, I didn't think it would cause such comments. I wore this because it's very summery, and it reminds me a little bit of the rainbow, the kaleidoscope of colours that the Queen wore for Royal Ascot this week. So I thought it was fairly appropriate. And of course, you've got 2 brooches, because I did kind of think if I get hot, I'm going to have to take it off. So I did put another brooch on just in case, and it's the Queen's flower basket brooch. Dawn Moore made it, so hello to Dawn Moore, and she's wishing everyone a great week and hope you've all had a great week. Jamie says, wow, you're wearing a brooch on the shirt too. Yes, because I thought I may get hot. Thistle Love says, what is that pendant you're wearing? Are you wearing it for a special reason? This is a replica of the Queen's flower basket brooch, and I bought it from the official Royal Collection store online, which they ship worldwide. This is an exact replica of the Queen's. Jamie says he thinks the Queen's best friend was Margaret Rose. Well, that was going to be my choice, but of course she's passed now, as we all know. So I don't know who her current best friend would possibly be. Possibly one of her ladies in waiting. Candice says, I was wondering if you were hot and if you were going to strip down. Well, this is as much as you're going to get me to strip. I'm not taking anything else off. Tim says, and what on earth is the deal with no air conditioning in the UK? I can't imagine that in the USA. Basically, we do not get anywhere near the amount of days of heat that you guys get. So to have air conditioning would be incredibly expensive to, first of all, buy it, install it, keep it running, get it maintained for literally probably a week or 2 out of the entire year of hot weather that we might actually need it. So that is why we don't generally have air conditioning in the UK, in a typical British home, because we just don't, if we had it, we just wouldn't get the benefit from it. So Brits being as frugal as we are, we just don't bother. We just get fans, or some people have portable air conditioning units, and we just bring it out when we do get the hot weather. So that's probably why. Elaine says, I totally agree about the top half. I just looked at the titles of the videos, complete rubbish. I agree. Banal says, I mean, take your jacket off. Well, there you go. Jen says, I got my central air on 24/7. Of course, if I had air conditioning, I would have it on now. Jamie says, wrong channel. Banal says, apparently. Amanda says, Tim, we don't typically need air conditioning for long enough during the year. That's exactly what I've said. Freya says, greetings from the south of France. I don't think we've had many people in the south of France tuning in. So hello to everyone, all of my European friends. James says, it's always in documentaries and films how the king and queen role is not wanted because of its lack of any freedom. Famous quotes of Princess Margaret, as girls claim the queen, poor you. Yes, I mean, in the royal family, it's probably not a particularly courted job or role, if you like. So I can understand why Prince Harry said that. But I think the media storm kind of whips it up. But I think it's probably good that Prince Harry is away for a few days, or a week at least. Deborah says, that is something I never knew about no air conditioning. Well, I wouldn't say we don't have any air conditioning. We do in public places and hotels, but in the typical British home, we don't tend to have fixed air conditioned units when houses are built. And of course, lots of UK homes are quite old, so to have them retrofitted isn't usually the done thing. and especially for how much use we get out of them. Linda says, be grateful you're not in Florida. I can't cope with the hot air. I'd much prefer to be a bit chillier. Dawn says, I wish there were more forthcoming news on Diana's resting place upgrade or the statue. Anyone know anything? All I know is the statue has been designed. I don't know what design. And I know that it's going to be somewhere in the grounds of Kensington Palace. Somewhere public so people can go and see, but I'm not entirely sure where. It certainly hasn't been constructed yet. As for Diana's resting place at Althorp, of course it was intended that it's all going to be done up, but I haven't been myself, so I don't know. And there's been no pictures released. But of course it was due to be done in time for the anniversary of her death in August. So we'll have to wait and see, and as soon as I do know, I will of course let you know. And if anyone does go there, if anyone visits, take some pictures, send me them, and I will turn them into a video. So if I've got any roving reporters out there, please do go and get some photos. Jamie says, the top half is a great channel. That's where I get my great facts. I would recommend it to anyone. Tongue in cheek. No, it's a rubbish channel. It's awful. And it perpetuates false stories. And I think everyone should unsubscribe from it and give it a big boo. And yes, Dawn has just smacked Jamie for that comment. Jamie's laughing. Nunya, is that Nunya? Yes, Nunya says, I live in Florida. I only turned my air conditioning off in January. Dawn says, good to know it has been designed. Linda says, how is Prince Philip? I haven't heard anything. Well, I did do a video saying he was out of hospital. Since then, we've heard nothing new. There are no new updates. But again, you know, no news is good news. Candice says, I hate the heat. It's hot here in Victoria. Yeah, well, I suppose it's been a bit more muggy today in the UK. Jen says, how much for the pin? They do vary. Most of them around about 80 Great British pounds. This one, I think, was around about £45. Slightly cheaper, but it is one of my favourites. Jamie says, I support the top half on Patreon, $100 a month. Are you kidding me? $100? No way. Of course you're lying. I hope they never ever get a Patreon, because for people to support, you know, falsehood would just drive me insane. Thistled Love says, I think what Prince Harry said might have been taken out of context. I don't think any royal covet the throne who in their right mind would. Context or no context, he said something that could be taken out of context. And I think in future he will probably watch what he says a little more. Linda says, oh God, a few exactly. And Linda likes my bunting we call them in the UK. Thistled Love says, air conditioning on here in North Carolina, USA from June to October. Deborah says, I was wondering about the top half, thanks for cleaning it up. It's completely rubbish. They probably put out, you know, 15, 16 videos a day of complete and utter made up rubbish. It's ridiculous. I mean, within about 3 months, they had about 1,500 videos of rubbish. So they just keep churning it out and churning it out and churning it out. And it's just, it's the pits, it really is. Candice says, you do not, Her Majesty, nice try. Carol says, Gerard Butler wore the same shirt you have on his film, The Bounty Hunter. Did he? Can someone find me the photo and send it to me on Twitter? Royal Reviewer on Twitter, please send it to me. I do not want to look like a bounty hunter. Dawn says, don't forget to wear the Canadian maple leaf pin next weekend. I have it in my diary because I'm not sure whether it was you actually, Dawn, whether you mentioned it to me, but it is in my diary to wear the maple leaf brooch on Saturday the 1st. And in fact, it has in my diary, it's Canada Day. So I did have it in there, and that is what I'll be wearing then. Coach says, I don't know, Elliot, if you're interested in reading biographical books on the royals, and I am, but I have read several, and one I recommend is Matriarch, Queen Mary and the House of Windsor by Anne Edward. I haven't heard of that one. I haven't had a lot of time to do much reading. I do typically love to read, but I haven't had much time recently. I'm still working on possibly doing the book club that I started on a different day, perhaps a Friday, because it didn't really fit into the live chat. But that's certainly one that sounds interesting. I do love Queen Mary. Jamie says, the people who watch and believe the top half are worse than the person who makes them. I would agree. James says, your thoughts on the telefilm Charles III? Don't get me started. When it was out, I did have a bit of a rant. And if you look down my list of live chat videos, you will see my rant. Charles III made me so angry. It was complete and utter drivel. The dialogue was terrible. The acting was terrible. The looks to camera, as if they were looking, oh, it was dreadful. And as for Princess Diana's ghost, oh my goodness, it was just, words fail me. It was just horrendous. And you know, possibly I could see it working as a play, but as a TV, no, it was ridiculous. So that's my thoughts on that. Dawn says, yes, it was me that told you about Canada Day. Why do I keep trying to say Canadian Day? Canada Day. Yes, you told me months ago, probably at the start of the year, I think, and I did put it in my diary, you see. So when you guys tell me things, I do put them in. Asma Steed says, is it true that Queen Elizabeth's second birthday is on the 18th of June? Well, you know me and dates, I always have to check. I'm terrible at remembering them. No, when was her proper birth? The second official birthday was Trooping the Colour, and that was the 17th of June this year. There you go. I am terrible at dates. That's why I write them all down in my trusty diary. Political Vet says, Elliot, can you explain what cladding insulation is as an exterior insulation process used in England? I've never heard of the term until the Grenfell fire. Cladding causes fast burning. Right. With a lot of old UK tower high-rise blocks, they were constructed of concrete, and they didn't really have much insulation or cavities. It was pretty much just a concrete wall. So whenever they're redone in sort of over the past 10 years, once they've been done up and renovated, instead of having internal insulation, they have external. So they have almost like a foam insulated board stuck to the outside of the building, and then they have what's supposed to be a fire resistant board, a cladding board, put on top of that. So it's like a sandwich. So you've got the concrete, you've got the insulation, and then you've got the cladding on top. And what happened in Grenfell's circumstances was that the foam obviously burned, but the protective cladding wasn't as fire retardant as they thought. So it burned through the fire resistant cladding and kind of burned the flammable material, and then it all whooshed up the building, and of course got into all the flats, all the apartments, and just caused absolute horrific devastation. So that's basically what happened. And you know, I did say it a few weeks ago, and I'll say it again, seeing as I've mentioned it again because it's come up in the live chat. You know, my heart goes out to all the people affected by the Grenfell Tower disaster. But to answer your question, that's basically what the cladding is, and it's used in retrofits. Linda says, yes, please explain the cladding issue. I've just done that. Jamie says, I started reading again. Elliot, I'll send you a pic of what I'm on. Please do. And yes, what is Canada's anthem? Maybe I'll find it and I will play it on Canada Day, which is also my live chat. Dawn says Charles III was more than dreadful and awful. When I saw the Diana ghost, I could not believe it. Well, that's the point. I wanted to literally switch off because it was just ridiculous. Asma said, "What's New Zealand's?" Well, now you're testing me. I have no idea about the anthems. I know God Save the Queen. I know Star Spangled Banner, but apart from that, I'm a little bit bad with national anthems, I must confess. Oh, there you go, Dawn. It's "Oh Canada." There you go. I will find "Oh Canada" for next week, and I will play it as an intro. Deborah says, "I agree with you how bad Charles III was. I think most people agree it was just absolutely dreadful." Nunya says, "I watched the trailer for Charles III and I shut off after about 30 seconds. The only bit I actually enjoyed that I thought was done well was the funeral of Elizabeth. I thought that little tiny minute or two was brilliant. And then when they just cut to Charles talking to camera, it was downhill from there. And yes, the very premise is indeed in poor taste." Jamie says, "Show us the horse up close. It looks good." It's like a resin cast wood, driftwood type effect. Do you really want to see the horse? There you go. Okay, there's my horse. Can you see? I think I've got a new friend. There we go. I'll have the horse for a bit. Nunya says, "I don't think he's going to choose Charles III as his regnal name." No, I don't think so either. And I think George VII will definitely be a good choice. Freya says, "Grenfell Tower ushers in a new era, United Kingdom and Commonwealth age." I think, well, certainly in the UK, there will be a lot of regulation changes when it comes to building safety and fire. So I think that's what that will perpetuate. Jamie says, "How stupid do you have to be to make fire-resistant cladding that helps the fire spread?" And the really awful thing was that they could have had a better cladding for £2 a panel more, and over the cost of the whole building, that would only have been £5,000, and they could have had a much better board. So yes, it's just absolutely dreadful. Linda Shaw says, "Oh my God, we watched it here. It's just sad and horrible." And Linda says, "Thanks for that info." Elaine says, "I would like the book club to start again. Friday evening is good for me." Yes, I was thinking Friday because it's quite hard to fit it into the live chat when some of the people in the live chat aren't doing the book club. So of course there's a period of time when people are sat there not really interested because they're not reading the book. So I think it's better that it has its own bit in the week. So I'm thinking once or twice a month on a Friday, and then you can read as much as you want, and then we just talk about it, hopefully spoiler free, but we can talk about it, and hopefully that will be a much better concept, because it was quite hard to fit it into here. Linda says, "Watch that here too," and I hated it. Candice says, "Yes, please play Candice's anthem on Candida Day. That would be awesome if you can." I will. James says, "Do you like when younger members of the royal family accompany the Queen on engagement?" Yes, I do. It's almost like she's training them. And of course, you're not going to get better training than with the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh if ever he's there too. So, I would like to see Prince William a little bit more with the Queen, because I do like to think that she's giving him little tips, or he's watching how she's doing it, and then a part of her, when she does eventually go, will live on in him and the way that he conducts himself on royal engagements. I hope. Okay, Coach says, "Is the Queen leaving for Balmoral soon? I haven't heard of her leaving yet." I think it's a little bit more towards July. It's the tail end of July, I do believe. Aaron 1912 says, on this day in 1850, Lord Kitchener was born, and he's the one who was Your Country Needs You. Linda says, the horse is awesome, and Jamie says it looks great. And he really likes it. Margaret Young says, hello Elliot, glad to be able to access today. Hello to Margaret, and I'm really glad that you made it. Freya says, is the horse paper mache? No, it's like a resin. It's a resin sculpture. So, you know, it's fairly weighty and solid. Deborah says, love how you decorate the set and yourself. Thank you. It does seem to be changing quite a lot week by week. And I've got some new things coming for next week too. Jen says, getting ready to storm here in Richland, North Carolina. Oh no. Well, I could do with a storm here. My garden needs watering. I hope you're okay with the storm. Candice says, once a month on a Friday for the book club would be great. That is kind of what I was thinking, or at least to start with anyway. So I'll just have to set a date. I will, of course, let you guys know. Perhaps I'll set a date next week about when it's going to start and what book we're still on. And then we can start it up again. Jamie says, next live chat, I'll be joining you from Spain. Hola. Hola from Spain. You'll have to get your castanets and send me a picture of whatever you're drinking. But it has to have an umbrella and a cocktail stick with some tinsel on. That's what you have to have in Spain. In fact, my parents are in Spain right now. Crystal Vector says, Elliot, how long have you been doing YouTube? I only found you last month. Well, my first video was actually 2 years ago, and it was the one on Princess Diana's apartment. But I haven't really been doing it properly for 2 years. After that video, I probably left it about 8 months until I made my next video. And then I probably left it another 5 months until I made a video. So I would say, in terms of been doing it properly, you know, at least a couple of videos a week. I've probably only been doing it for a year. So even though officially, if you check my channel, it will probably say it's 2 years old, really, I've only been doing it for a year. In fact, I'm coming up. In fact, I've just at Trooping the Colour. That was my full year cycle of when I've been making videos properly. And of course, I've probably been doing a video a day, or trying to do a video a day, probably for the last 6 months. So it's still very early in my channel, and I do hope it continues to grow. But yeah, so the actual channel is 2 years, but I would say it's more like 1 year. Thistled Love says, stormy here in Raleigh. Our city is named for Sir Walter Raleigh. We even have a statue of him. A very famous figure in the UK too. Jamie says she leaves on the 21st of July. There you go. I knew it was a late July. Margaret Young says, I think the Queen looks more beautiful and fashionable than she did when she was younger. At 91, she is just beautiful. She is. Her skin is amazing. Her fashion is always on point. Never fashionable, never necessarily unfashionable, but a style and a fashion all of her own that is timeless, that is classic, that is her. And of course, you know, she does look amazing. And in recent years, much thanks to Angela Kelly. Linda says, do you think after the Queen passes, the people of the United Kingdom will want a monarchy? Yes, I do. I think they will still want a monarchy. Steve says, I hope things in monarchy don't change too radically when the Queen dies. I think Charles will make some changes. We don't know exactly what they are or how quickly he will want to do them. I think there will be some though. Candice says, I agree. I too would like to see William more with the Queen, a lot more. And I think that time will come when the Duke of Edinburgh officially steps down, which is October officially. Dawn says, I am not sure I will be on next week. Depends on the calendar celebrations. Maybe at the lake. Oh, that's unfortunate. You're going to miss our Canada special. But of course you can watch on catch up, and I'll be thinking of you. And please tweet us some pictures. Jamie says, oh yeah, back says Billy, I'll have to read that, read over that, it's been so long. Well, I may choose a different book if people have read it. Linda says, I found you just today. So far, you're great. I'll keep watching. Thank you very much. And hello to anyone who's just found this channel. We do the live chats every week, every Saturday at 10 o'clock GMT time. So you can, you can Google it and find what time that is in your local area. It's a time that best suits most of the world that are English speaking, at least. And of course, if I'm not able to make it, I always let you know on Facebook or Twitter or one of those social media accounts. Or if you're a patron on Patreon, I tell you there too. Jen says, how do you send pictures on here? I don't believe you can, but you can send me pictures on Twitter and on Facebook. Candice says, and it is fabulous. Thank you. Jamie says, open the PO box. Now, for you guys who are Patreon members, I did post you a photo of my research into a PO box, because of course people have said that they would love to send me some things. So a PO box is a great way of doing that. However, they charge you by the month, by 6 months, or by 12 months, and it is fairly expensive to do that. So Jamie did kind of come up with a good idea. He's one of my patrons on Patreon. He did say perhaps just consider doing it for a month, and then when people know when that month is, they can send me the things, and then I can close it down. So it'll only cost about 20 UK pounds for the 1 month. Although I would like to keep it open, but perhaps the month might be a good way of doing it to start with, just to see if it's used, because it's a lot of money to keep it up for 6 months or a year if people aren't really sending me anything to review or letters to read out or that kind of thing. So I may try it for 1 month, and 1 month only, just to see how it goes. MSMB 2012 says, do you think Charles will be a popular or unpopular king? I think there'll be a lot of confusion at the start. I think people will not know what to make of the change. Most people in the UK living today have not had a change of monarch. So I think people will be a little bit unsure. He'll need some settling in time. But I think on the whole, I think he'll be quite popular. And in fact, my prediction is he'll be, whatever regnal name he takes, I think he'll go down as Charles the Conscientious. Jen says, what is a PO box? If you go to your local post office, you can open up like a mail address where you can give it out, you can give the address out over the internet, and it doesn't reveal your home address. So people can send you things to your PO box, and then, for example, I could go to my local post office and collect them, or the post office could deliver it from the PO box address to me directly. James says, I think William and Kate should both join the Queen. It is one of a type training and continuity, but very sweet. Of course, they have on several occasions, and Catherine has gone on engagements with the Queen herself. So they've both had time with the Queen to learn. But yes, I agree, more could be done. Dawn says, do you think that when William becomes king, he will actually give his mother back her HRH? It's something I've always thought that maybe he would, and it's something he possibly still could. I don't think it'll be an immediate thing he does, but it could certainly be something that he restores. And interestingly enough, if Diana had lived, being obviously still divorced from Charles, it was always interesting to think what title she would have had, or what William could have given her when he becomes king. And I was thinking back to Margaret Beaufort, who was in a similar type of circumstance, and Henry VIII, when he became king, he gave her the title of My Lady the King's Mother. So I was wondering, if she had have lived, I was wondering if she'd have been given the title My Lady the King's Mother, because of course that precedent is still in existence. and one that could have been used and one that would have been fairly suitable. Jamie says, at the lake, Dawn, do you celebrate by looking at the water? I doubt it. And Dawn says, no, there's a big party with massive fireworks. Linda says, what time is it there? 6 p.m. in Florida. Do you mean in the UK? In the UK now, it's 11 minutes past 11 in the evening. Political Vet says, Elliot, I always love to see the Queen and Prince Philip riding their horses. Riding is a sport for life. The Queen has the best horses available on the planet. She does indeed. And of course, you know, if horse riding keeps you fit like that, then sign me up. I would love to learn. Fair says, Elliot, looking back, I think we are quite fortunate. It's been a long road for humanity as a whole. I mean, we have for the most part been spared from wars, outright conquests and the likes. The Queen, in my opinion, has been instrumental in steering the UK and Commonwealth in the right direction. Tough boots to fill. Yes, I mean, we have had, you know, a very, you know, we have had, I suppose you could say it's a tale of two halves. We've had stability in terms of, you know, we've not had a world war for a long time, but then we've got the war on terrorism. We've had, you know, other sorts of atrocities happen. We've got climate change. We've got all the problems associated with technological advances. But then, of course, we do have the advances in technology, which has helped medicine improve, which has prolonged life, which has then brought in its own problems of, you know, social care when people get elderly because they're living longer, and, you know, people who have complex medical conditions that would have previously passed away are now living longer. That brings its own problems. You know, on the one hand, we have had a certain amount of stability, but we're also going through a period of great change, and the Queen has presided as monarch over a huge chunk of that and been the continuity to that time and to a nation and to the world. And people that look, you know, even if people aren't British, they might look to the Queen as that symbol of continuity that you can relate to. So I think, you know, she will definitely be tough boots to fill, and it will be a huge change for people to figure out when that change does happen. Linda says, I'll send an air conditioner. Thank you. That would help. Jamie says, July is a great month for the PO box. Not just saying that because it's next month. But I was kind of thinking August because I'm off work in August. Okay, let me just scroll back up because I think I've missed a few questions. Okay. Emily says, how come the Queen's children and grandchildren only have 2 children each? Personal choice. I mean, there isn't any set amount of children they have to have. Jen says, my air conditioning is outside. It's too big to fit in the house. MSMB says, do you think Camilla will be a popular queen? At first, no, but then I think people will accept and move on. Candice says, if you're going to open it for a month, please choose August. Yes, that's what I was kind of thinking. And Jen says, I know what a PO box is. Political Vector says, Elliot, is it still out of the realm of possibility that the Queen will skip Prince Charles and go directly to Prince William? I think that is completely not possible. It will be Charles and then it will be William, most definitely. Jamie says, good thought. Jamie says, you should do a PO box in August. Again, I agree with that one. Jamie says there are 50 people watching. Hello to the Fab 50. Dawn says, okay, here is a stretch. Maybe William will ask his father to give Diana back the HRH. Again, yes, that is probably a stretch. It may be something he's keeping for himself to do. Maybe William feels that that's something that he could do for his mother. Probably one of the only things now that he can do for her. So perhaps he'd want that to be him. That's maybe what I'm thinking. Jen says it's late over in London. And of course, where I am in Shropshire, in more particular. Vandal says, for those of you who don't know, August the 4th is my birthday. It is indeed the same as the late Queen Mother. It's a royal birthday. Jen says it's only 6:13 where she is. And Jamie says, yes, he will turn 21. I agree. I will be 21. Yes, my 21st birthday. Vanal says, not quite. And Jamie says, shush. Yes, shh. I will be forever 21 and not a day older. Thistled Love says, this chat is delightful. I'm enjoying the questions from people from England, Canada, etc. and your answers. I like learning. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this live chat, was to connect all the people who watch the videos together and to connect me to all the people that watch the videos and, you know, learn more about people, learn what people want to hear about, answer questions, share my knowledge and inspire, you know, a new generation, younger people to be involved and interested in the royal family too. Van Al says, welcome to Deborah. James says, I think Diana, the King's mother, will William as King and Harry's agreement move Diana's remains to be with them. I don't think her remains will be moved. I really don't. I think she will stay resting, hopefully in peace. Jen says, my air conditioning is outside and connected to my house. Jamie says, is it a car engine by any chance? Okay, this is how, okay, some of you Americans or Canadians or anyone who lives where air conditioning is popular will probably go, oh my goodness, that's just crazy. But when it was really, really hot, me and my partner got in the car at about 11 o'clock in the evening and went for a drive for an hour just to get the aircon. And we just drove around the area just to get the aircon. And by the time we got back, we were all lovely and cool. So that's probably crazy where you're from. But when you don't have aircon and you have it in your car, sometimes it's the only thing to do. Emily says, do you think one day the monarchy will just collapse? I mean, I haven't got a crystal ball, so I can't look into the future. I don't think it will just collapse. I think, you know, if it was ever going to end, there would have to be a movement that would probably take many years to come to the fore. So I don't think it would just collapse unless there was some kind of catastrophic change in public opinion. So no, I don't think it will just collapse. Jamie says, you will be forever 21. Will you be a clothing shop? No, but I will be forever 21. Jamie says, what's the point in cooling the air outside? Is it to keep pet gorillas outside? I do not endorse keeping pet gorillas. Jen says the air comes inside. Linda says, love, love, love this. And Jamie says 1 hour. Norks Pebbles, I hope I got that right, says, I want to thank you for a great channel. Watch you all the time from LA. One day I'll get to Britain to see everything. I'm a big royal and British fan. Just want to say thanks. Well, thank you for watching. So that's from me to you, a big thank you. Nina says, I have to say good night. Great show tonight. See you next week. Dawn says, if it's that hot, you got to do what you got to do. I completely agree. Vanal says, absolutely, the Queen will never skip over Charles. He's her son, and she's very proud. Yes, I would agree with that one. Emily says, I feel like Prince Harry is slightly depressed. He looked a little bit sad the last few times we've seen him, but I always put that down to the fact that he hasn't been with Meghan for a bit, so perhaps he's missing her. Dawn thinks Jamie is on a roll with his jokes. And Steve says, when Diana died, people said it nearly ended the monarchy. Do you agree? They certainly went through one of their worst patches in history. Public opinion about the monarchy was at an all-time low. And I think, you know, the monarchy needed to regroup and needed to kind of rebrand. And I think it allowed the monarchy to get back in touch with the people. And of course, it did. You know, it took 5-6 years to start turning it around, but when they did, you know, Queen Elizabeth and the royal family have been enjoying somewhat of a gloriana. Nunya says, when I was a kid, we used to do that, but we didn't have aircon in the car. We just drove around with the windows open. Jamie says, the Queen can't just give it to William. Monarchy isn't a box of chocolates. I completely agree. Although, as I say, it's not Big Brother. You can't, or it's not Love Island. You know, you can't vote people in and out. You know, you get what you're given, basically. Linda says, Nunya, done that here too. Critical Vet says, Elliot, more Americans need to find out about you. They would eat you up with a silver spoon. You are a star. Thank you very much. And I love the idea of silver spoons. In fact, I had one when I was a child, and it had Mickey Mouse on it. Emily says, if Prince Harry gets married and Prince William becomes king, what will Prince Harry be known as? The Duke of York? No, not the Duke of York, because that title is at the moment still in existence. I believe Sussex is available, or Clarence. So he could be known as the Duke of Sussex or the Duke of Clarence. But it's been muted that perhaps it will be Sussex. Jen says, I guess American homes are built different. It's all to do with the climate. You know, every home all over the world is different because of where they are in the world and what climate they have to deal with. Or geographical things like dealing with earthquakes or floods or that kind of thing. Kimberly says, freeze a large block of ice and put it in front of a fan, it helps. I don't think our UK fridges are big enough to freeze a large block of ice. Linda says, I agree, political, he's a star. Oh, thank you very much. Jamie says, I'm always on a roll, I'm like ketchup. And yes, laughing at Big Brother. Thistle Love says, have to go, the lighting is getting bad here. This is the remnant of a tropical storm that came up from the Gulf of via Louisiana. Thank you again. Well, thank you, and I hope the remnants of the storm pass by very quickly. Jamie says, the Queen has left the house and will not be returning. Emily says, where is Kensington Palace based? It's in London. And I think it's more towards North London. I'm trying to get my London geography right. So it's not right smack bang in the middle where Buckingham Palace is. It's a little bit further up. Not much further, just a little bit. James says, I'm so conflicted. Charles is a good caring man. You think he was horrible to Diana, and Camilla you do not care for. But I think they should be married and are in love. She does make him happy and will try very hard as king. Yes, I agree. I mean, I think he'll be a good king, I have to say. MSMB says, I think Charles and Camilla will be unpopular and he will abdicate to make way for William. I don't think that will happen, but we'll have to wait and see. Nunya says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Ultimately, the monarchy is stronger today than before Diana died. That is true. Jamie says, keep talking or he will go. Linda says, Camilla, don't care for her much. And Jen says, don't fall asleep, honestly. I'm not going to fall asleep. But it is nearly time to go. Jamie is right. It is kind of time to go in a minute. Jamie says, I like the carriage the Queen was in. Yes, it's one of her open landaus, I do believe. Fair says, Harry, I love Harry. Understand the Duke of Cambridge, but Harry has a little more freedom. He does indeed. God bless Wills for being incredibly patient with the entire process. Again, you know, being in line to the throne is about waiting. Jamie says, how many carriages does the Queen have? Off the top of my head, I can't tell you, and I haven't visited the Royal Mews to see all of them. And of course, it's quite hard to tell because some of them, I do believe, are based at different places. So not all of them will be at the Royal Mews. Some might be at Windsor. I think one or two are at Sandringham, and possibly at Balmoral too. The main ones are, of course, housed in the Royal Mews. The most famous one is the Golden State Coach. Then we have some other ones that are updated. Some were updated in the 80s. I think one was resprung in the early noughties. I think there's a recent one that was given by the Irish, I do believe. And that's one of the Queen's favourites because it has aircon and it has really plush seats and it's well hung. So it's a well hung and well suspended carriage. So that's one of the Queen's favourites, which is one of her most modern ones. So I can't tell you the exact number, but I know that a lot of them are used, and you know, you get to see them at Ascot, you get to see them at Trooping the Colour, you get to see them you know, on weddings. You get to see them all over the place, so they are all in use, as is the royal fleet of cars. Steve says, will Camilla's family play any role in the royal circle when she is queen? They'll just support. I mean, they aren't going to have an official role, but of course, you know, they'll still be close to the throne, but they won't have any official role. Buckinghamster's Palace says, one of my horse riding students in on her way to London too. Bad she missed the race, but there's still plenty of polo. Polo being the sport of kings. Jamie says, Andrew was like an annoying little kid following mummy around all week. I think he really enjoyed it, and I think the Queen liked having him there too. Slightly Stat says, hello from the Motor City. That's Detroit, I know that one. I know Motor City, Detroit, because Madonna is from there, and I do like Madonna. Political Vet says, Elliot, just a couple of months ago, there were a lot of stories about Camilla's drinking. That was perpetuated from the top half, and it's all fake. Now it seems to have died down because the top half has stopped perpetuating it. Did some incident happen with Camilla? No, it was just the top half spouting off a load of rubbish, as normal. Linda says, thanks so much for making my evening. I'll watch again, I promise. Next week, Saturday at 10 o'clock. Dawn says, I would love to see the gold coach. Jamie says, the gold state coach is the one that you would like to ride into school. It's very ostentatious. You'd certainly get spotted. Deborah says the carriage was beautiful. I like the one she was in today. I know it's more understated than the Golden State, but it's a lot more usable. It's black and shiny. It's open topped. I like the kind of cream colour of the inside. I did like the carriage today. Jamie says, yes, the Irish State Coach is from 1901. It's used to belong to the Viceroy in Dublin, and Victoria liked it so much that she bought it. But there was another carriage gifted, and I can't remember which nation gave it. Trump fan says, I love watching your videos. Thank you very much. And Linda says, aha, you have fake news too. I don't have fake news. The Britain has fake news. YouTube has fake news. So yes, we do indeed definitely have fake news too. Candice says, your jaw must ache after all of these chats. Well, let's just say I go off and I'm quiet for a while. Trump fan says, love watching you from Tennessee. And Jamie says, I'm going on Thursday. We'll send a pic, although it's not as exciting. Yes, please keep me updated of your trip. Okay, so I'm going to go now. Thank you for another amazing, enjoyable chat. I always enjoy this point in the week when I get to speak to people. After a week of making videos, it is always nice to come back and reconnect with you guys who watch the videos. So thank you very much for joining me again. Please join me next week. Please watch all my episodes on my channel. Like them, subscribe to the channel, share on social media, give me a big thumbs up on the videos. It really does help. So from me, until next time, from me in Shropshire, goodbye.